All right, thanks for tuning back into more NASCAR talk on Prime Sports NASCAR, Prime Sports Radio Network. Greg DePalma, CJ Radoon, and Eric Smith. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get right to it. Boys, you can just jump in whenever you like as we recap what happened on Sunday in the Coke 600 and then preview the race coming up. I'm not even sure what the hell a Alsco Uniforms 500 is, but whatever it is, it's going to be tomorrow night. Okay. First, let's just get off the chest what I think a lot of fans, how they would, or how the analysts should really react, should have reacted to the end of this race. You can kind of sense it through, Mike Joy and some of the post-race stuff, the way they were commentating. Like, look, everybody knows they wanted Chase Elliott to win the race. Everybody knows that the way it ended, it was like it took the life out of everybody. And you could tell the way that everyone was talking. But it kind of, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of sick of the way that the announcers just kiss ass all the time, guys. Mike Joy, I think, was the one that was actually, wasn't he the one that was saying, I don't know if, I'm not sure if it was McReynolds, but somebody, Joy or McReynolds, was stating the obvious. Of course, everybody has to stay out. The leaders have to stay out. Of course, all the leaders have to stay out. And then Chase Elliott and they decide to pit, surprises everybody. But then in the post race, we get how, it was a very tough call. And no matter no matter what their leader did, then he was screwed either way. Go ahead, CJ.
It was even sooner than that. I think it was Larry McReynolds as they went under caution saying there's no way anybody at the front of the field is going to be stopping. You don't need tires now. All night, the new tires haven't made that much of a difference. Then you see Elliott go on the pit road. Mike Joy goes, "Oh my gosh, he's on pit road. That's a surprise." And McReynolds says, "Well, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't." Like 10 seconds after he said, "There's no way anybody's pitting."
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and this has happened now to me for the second time this year, because we talked about this when it happened to Blaney. So I had Blaney in that race, and we all had Elliott in the race on Sunday. So we all got equally screwed. But I got screwed for the second time this year by my driver and the crew chief making the dumb call to pit. Because, look, here's the deal. Let's just break it down this way. We know it's a tough call, okay? But, okay, if you pit, then there's a chance that they may pit with you, and there's a chance they may not. If you pit and they don't pit with you, you lose unless you get a couple more cautions, okay? And then that doesn't always happen. So you're pretty much going to lose if they don't follow you. But if you stay out and they pit, or if you stay out and they stay out with you, you still have a good chance to win either way. Because if you stay out, you've got the clean air. And you only have to hold them off for a lap and a half. So that's why it's a bad decision to pit.
Yeah, I mean, what baffles me is I'd almost kind of compare it to you're in a football game, you're at the 5-yard line, the score's tied, and you could kick a field goal, score a touchdown, but you decide, you know what, I'm just going to punt it. You guys can have the ball, and then I'll see if I can come back down the field and
or in a 45-45 offensive slugfest, you go to overtime, you win the toss, and you decide to kick off.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. It's like you don't want to win. I mean, I get the call that you feel like, well, if we stay out, everybody's gonna pit. But did he not watch the same pit sequence that at the end of the third stage when he and Harvick and Logano all stayed out? And granted, he and Harvick fell back because they didn't have that almighty clean air, boring race like we talked about on the show last week. But did he not see that Joey Logano stayed out? He had the lead.
Yes.
And I have it right here in the notes. He led 25 straight laps after that.
There you go.
With clean air.
Yes.
Chase Elliott had the lead. Like, what were you thinking? Like, why would you not at least go out swinging?
Yes.
And the other factor is the Hendrick guys are they just social distancing themselves from not even talking with other teams with each other? Because why on earth would Alan Gustafson not message Jimmy Johnson's crew chief and Alex Bowman's crew chief? And granted, William Byron brought out the caution and he had to pit, but why would they all three not say, you know what, let's just all stay out? We've all going to have the top three clean air, and there's no way, even if everybody pits, they're going to pass all three of us in 2 laps. It's not going to happen. So why do they do that? It's like, why do they not talk together? Because at that point, it was just baffling because you knew other guys were going to stay out. I bet the Childress cars, if the Hendrick cars, the Childress cars would have stayed out, then you've got at least 5 spots right there as a buffer between anybody with fresher tires, and you only had 2 laps to go from a restart. So I thought it was another bonehead call with Hendrick. And if you remember, they did the same damn thing at Las Vegas with Alex Bowman when him and Blaney pitted. With that scenario you're talking about at the end of the race, when all they had to do was just stay out and finish 1-2, because I don't know when these people are going to realize, and they talk about it ad nauseum in every single 1.5 mile broadcast, that clean air always wins.
Yes.
And those guys had clean air. Why would you not want clean air? It's like you said, it's like, hey, it's a shootout. I'm going to give you clean air. You have the ball. You can win the race. You have that to be like, not only did you turn away the coin toss, they're basically saying you could win the coin toss and start the ball at your own 5-yard line. You can win. It's right there. But you say, nah, I'm okay. I'm going to go ahead and pit for tires when it's proven that it didn't matter literally all night. So, yeah, it's just, I actually have an article coming out here at the end of the week, just seeing how tonight or tomorrow night goes, about how Hendrick has the most speed all year, but they just keep giving wins away. And we'll see if that happens again tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, even Jeff Gordon again, and I'm, considering he was a driver that has such a great career, and everybody likes Jeff Gordon, that kind of deal. And maybe that's it, because he doesn't want to. He's being too nice, but nobody wants a nice analyst. I mean, it's boring, and Jeff Gordon's too nice. Yes. And he was nice there, because he was saying the exact thing. He was talking about how the whole idea of this race was clean air. And then 2 seconds later, but it's a tough choice of whether to pit or not.
This is also the same guy that when Denny Hamlin came back on track 6 laps down at the beginning said, "Oh, but it's a good team and it's a long race."
Yeah. Yeah. And what the heck? Yeah, so what in the world was going on with Denny Hamlin's team? Explain that whole thing, because I was confused after hearing how it all came down and everybody suspended for a month. And so explain, please.
Well, that's a big deal, because the ballast is on the car to make it meet minimum weight. So you got 2 problems there. Number one, the car is not at minimum weight without that ballast falling off, just before the green flag. So it would have been disqualified for that. But more importantly than that, the ballast is extremely, extremely heavy. When that falls off, if it were to have fallen off under the green flag or something, it very easily could have killed somebody. It definitely would have knocked somebody out of the race. So NASCAR takes a very, very, very strong stance on that. And in the rule book, I do believe it says that if that happens, if ballast falls off the car, then your crew chief, car chief, and engineer automatic, I think 3 or 4 race suspension.
4 race, yeah.
4 race. So that's actually written in the rule book. Big, big, big problem with that stuff coming off. And again, just another bonehead mistake. How often have we ever seen that happen? Maybe once in my entire life. And then we had it last Sunday
All right, so
night.
what was the mistake?
Somebody at the shop not securing it properly.
That's it?
There was something that fell out. Yeah, some kind of bolt or some kind of.
So they weren't trying to get
fastener.
away with anything.
Did not work. No, there's no way that much tungsten can fall out of the car that they were actually just trying to get away with something. That was just a stupid mistake, something that happened in the shop or with the crew when they were preparing the car.
And will somebody be fired over that?
If I owned the team, I would fire somebody for that, something that dumb. Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge penalty to pay for not putting in a bolt in and securing it properly.
All right, so that means what? The crew chief and several others are out for a month?
Yep.
Or four races. 4 races, okay.
4 races. And what that is, because the car chief, basically this is like saying your head coach is gone, your top assistant coach is gone, and your second post assistant coach, they're all gone, because the car chief is the guy that pretty well, he works with the crew chief, and he's the one that works on the car, massages the car, makes sure that car is ready to go. So I mean, if anybody was get the fall, it would be the car chief and whoever in the shop was supposed to put the bolt in, because the car chief's the guy that says, all right, this Mr. Crew Chief, you're the coach, you're the leader. This is the car that you wanted, and it's all set, ready to go. So you pretty much took the top 3 of their depth chart outside the driver out for 4 weeks. I mean, that's a very big deal. So luckily for him, he's won twice already this season, so it's not going to affect him in terms of like playoffs or anything like that. I mean, he's already in. It's really gonna test their depth right now, because. And the other factor is, it's not like those guys are suspended, like they can't work or do anything. They just can't be in credentialed areas. So they could still work in the shop. They could still get the car ready. It's just when they get to the racetrack, if any adjustments, anything, leadership, anything needs done, they're not there. They just basically can't go to the racetrack. But it'll affect them here in some of these races, because it's a lot. That's a big loss to have for your team.
Would this concern you for the big picture, as far as, or is this just a dumb mistake by one individual that does not comprise one of the leaders of this Denny Hamlin team that's going to prevent you from winning a championship?
I think to what Eric said, it would change my view of him in the future if it weren't so early in the season, if he hadn't already won 2 races. Because what this really takes away from him are 4 races where they could have been practicing and getting everything together for how they want to run the playoffs. So they're going to be a little bit behind with that, but they already, they came out of the gate swinging with that win. I think it was a dumb mistake. As soon as these 4 races are over and they get through those problems, they're going to be back on course, and they still got the rest of the season to get ready for the playoffs.
Okay, so what's after this again? What's coming up now after Wednesday?
Bristol on Sunday.
Bristol on Sunday.
That's a regular day race.
Correct.
And then what's after that?
Another day race at Atlanta.
On what? Sunday?
Sunday.
Oh, so we're back. Sunday. So no more of these midweek races.
Well, the one after Atlanta is Wednesday. It's going to be a Martinsville race Wednesday night.
Oh, so back to back races on bad racetracks.
Yes.
Okay. So that's coming up next month, sometime in June.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, at least we got Bristol on Sunday. All right. Now let's get to this race. We'll break it down. We got the early odds. We'll start with the favorites, and not a surprise that Chase Elliott's now a favorite in this race at 5-1, along with Truex. And here we go again with Truex. See, this is what I'm talking about. Now, maybe he will win Wednesday night. It's possible. As I said on Sunday, if you're going to take Truex, maybe you take him now. And I still believe that, because the guy just dominates this track. But does he fall off with Cole Pern there? I just don't think so. There's something that's going on there that they haven't been able to completely figure out. And until they figure out, if I have to decide between Truex and Elliott at 5-1, I'm taking Chase Elliott.
Yeah, I agree. Because Truex, it's a part, I think, crew chief problem, and the other part is I just think Toyota's something's missed there. I mean, Hamlin said it a few weeks ago. Kyle Busch again, and the other night just said, "Hey, I finished top 5, but I fluked into it. I shouldn't have been there." He said that again in March when he was finishing in the top 5. So I think for the future, I think it's scary for the competition, the fact that they're lacking speed and they're still getting top 5s. But in the immediate impact, I think it's just something's just a little bit off. And I don't know if track position played a key. I know Truex said once he lost that track position, it kind of hurt the handling of his car, which again would be, 1, that's part NASCAR problem. 2, that's part a crew chief driver problem where they can't get that car figured out. But Chase Elliott doesn't seem to have that problem. He came twice from basically the end of the lead lap and made his way back up to the front. So that's a good race car. If I had to choose, I would say definitely Chase Elliott. But Truex, we'll we'll see what happens because, as we talked about, next is Bristol, and he's got one top 5 in his last 15 starts there. He needs to get going. He needs to capitalize on some of this because he hasn't won yet, and if he can't win on Wednesday night, then yeah, it's one thing to keep getting top 10s, but it's another to maximize your potential and win a race. And right now, I don't see it out of him. He had a good chance again on Sunday night, and they just couldn't close it out. So I would say Elliott is the safe pick out of those two. That's for sure.
And what if we included Kyle in that, CJ? He's 6-1.
I would still go Elliott for the exact same reasons that Eric said. I mean, Truex is really good at Charlotte. Wednesday is probably going to be his last chance in a couple of weeks to get a win. He was running up front, but he just wasn't able to move through the field. Chase Elliott could move through the field. Chase Elliott's got all the speed. If they don't make another bonehead call, they're going to have a race win. And Kyle Busch also said that, just as Eric said, that he lucked into a couple of these top finishes, and he's just been a little bit off. I think I've said that a few times so far this year. He hasn't been able to do much more than, kind of happen into top 5 finishes. We're used to seeing Kyle Busch come out swinging and be really far ahead and drive away from these guys, and we're just not seeing it this year.
Okay, now we have Bowman at 7-1 and Harvick at 8-1. So we'll talk about those two. And Bowman, after dominating the first 3 laps, first 3 stages, winning the first, winning the second and the third, led 164 laps. He just faded. Eric, now Kyle finished 4th and Harvick finished 5th. Okay, those were top 5s, but they didn't do anything. So Bowman's there at 7-1. Why don't we just go right back to Bowman and Elliott once again? That seems like it makes a lot of sense. But what did happen to Bowman late?
I would be, and they'll never admit this, but going back and rewatching a little bit of it, he got a little bit loose on that last restart, and he got kind of high off in between 3 and 4. I think he was thinking bigger picture at that point for Wednesday night, because remember, again, this is where I think this gamesmanship's going to come in. They inverted the top 20, and he knew that his teammate William Byron was the last car in the lead lap at 21st, and he had a damaged race car. I think he got out of the gas and just got to the back knowing he was going to get a front starting spot, because before at that point, he didn't know Jimmy Johnson was going to fail inspection. Alex Bowman was going to start on the pole tomorrow night. Now, granted, it put Jimmy Johnson back to 40th. Byron went from 21st to 20th, and he's on the pole. But he got Alex Bowman on the front row with a car that led 164 laps, and not much changes is going to be made.
So where do you think he would have finished? If you think
top 5.
So you just think that he knew he wasn't going to win, though.
At that point, yeah, because if you watch the final restart, he was up front. He got loose with Tyler Reddick underneath him, and you could tell he just, instead of pushing, he's already got a win, and knowing that if he wrecks, he's going to start in the back, he just let out of the gas and just let these guys go by and hopped in line behind and didn't push the issue on the final lap to gain some spots back. And why would he at that point? Because the more spots you gain, the worse starting spot you're going to have on Wednesday night. And it's not going to do you any good. He's already got a win under his belt, and points at that point, it doesn't matter to him. He's in the playoffs. So I think that was more by design, just to stay back there. And now it worked because he's starting on the front row still, and he's got the same race car. I mean, he led 164 laps and finished first, and second, respectively, in the 3 stages. All these guys now know at this point, you can pit. This race is half the distance of the 600. It's more 300 miles rather than 600 miles. You can use pit strategy now, knowing that no tires and 2 tires are going to be your way to go. Why not put 4 tires at the end of the second stage and know that you can just take 2 tires and no tires the rest of the way out and be in contention to win? So I think Bowman's going to stay up front really this whole race. I'd be shocked unless somebody took him out, blown tires, speeding penalty, something like that. 7-1. I was shocked that they're probably just looking at finishes, but he's starting on the front row and has the same car. 7-1. I would honestly take him over Elliott for this race.
Okay. What about you then, CJ?
Completely agree. I'm probably a little bit less cynical than Eric is about it. He definitely got loose and he was falling back as a bit. But I think when you get loose and you're in the middle and you've got that much traffic around you on a green white checkered overtime finish, probably at that point, you got a great car. You got a car that can win on Wednesday. Let's just save the car. I think he kind of lucked out into starting on the front row there with Jimmy Johnson getting disqualified. Byron obviously starting on pole, but I think it was probably a little bit more trying not to damage the car, knowing that he led 164 laps, can come out and do it again on Wednesday. So Bowman definitely is an extremely good play this week, and I agree with Eric. I would take him over Elliott.
What happened to did they change the package from the last year or two? What happened to the drafting that we used to get at this racetrack? Didn't we when they made that change a couple of years ago to the package? We had some pretty good.
The drafting package.
Yeah, what happened?
This is that package. it was
Where
just
is
a bad
it?
race.
This is supposed to be the package that we've seen in the past, where they actually drive close next to each other.
You're supposed to be able to suck up and make passes a lot easier than you used to. Every track's going to be like a restrictor plate track now. Yeah, it's just not happening. They've got a lot of grip. They're really affected by the aerodynamics in the corner, which is why you can get away with track position and having that clean air and having beat up tires. It just doesn't make a difference because people aren't able to pass in that dirty air. It's just too turbulent. They're not able to get alongside. And if you're out front, you're as good as gold for a while.
Well, in the Xfinity pack.
Go ahead.
I say the Xfinity package, I think, just further proves the point that they have more horsepower and less downforce, like what NASCAR or the Cup guys used to have. And they ran a 300-mile race last night, half the distance of the 600, and they had the same amount of lead changes as the Cup race did. So half the race, same amount of lead changes, and it took 337 miles of racing on Sunday night before we had a pass for the lead. Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain exchanged the lead 11 times in the first 100 laps last night. So it just goes to show, I think the easiest fix to get the racing back is you've got to take downforce away, and like CJ said, up the horsepower, make these cars harder to drive. Because if everybody's flat out going the same speed, how do you pass those cars in front of you? That's where the clean air just aerodynamics, the clean air just makes it so keen because everybody's going the same speed, which again is even more baffling why Chase Elliott gave that up to try to come back through the field again on Sunday night.
All right. I'm being distracted here. I got spiders running across my desk. I got a gnat in my forehead, and so I didn't really catch what you said there for the last minute, but everybody else did. So don't worry about me. Okay. So what happened to Jimmy? So Jimmy Johnson again. What is going on with Jimmy Johnson? It seems like if he would have won the race, would he have been disqualified?
Absolutely, yeah. He had some kind of rear measurement issue. He passed pre-race inspection, so he was able to get out and go. Had a really good car, had a really good race, and NASCAR allows for tolerances within the race to happen. So there's a margin that measurement can be off afterwards, whether from damage or just from wear and tear and all that good stuff. But the team was outside of it afterwards. So he found out on his drive home that his second place ended up turning into 40th. So he's going to be starting. It's another week again where, just a stupid thing ends up putting him at the back of the field. But the good news is that he did have a good car. And I think that measurement probably didn't affect his overall performance too much. I think we'll see him move forward through the field on Wednesday.
Yeah, but the only difference now is he's 9-1, so the odds are coming down for Jimmy Johnson, and now they're getting into a point where we have to really rethink whether to take Jimmy Johnson because he's no longer that much of a bargain. Right. So
starting 40th for 9-1, I don't think I'd take Jimmy Johnson for that, especially if he's still making mistakes and has issues.
Yeah, even though.
But last year, you look at last year this time, he was 25-1, 28-1, 40-1. Yep. So it says a lot about his team and how much better they've gotten that they have finally joined everybody else up front again. But yeah, for those odds and starting last on track position type track, that'd be a tough one to choose because that by scoring 1 point, that took him right on the playoff bubble again. So he can't he can't afford to kind of go off strategy and hope for a win in the end. He needs points too. That hurt him more than anything. So yeah, I don't think he's a guy that necessarily will win tomorrow night. He just needs a good top 5 or top 10, and they'll just have to be conservative because of that.
Yeah, the chances of another Keselowski type win, you saw how lucky that was, and because I mean, look, it wasn't like he led laps like he said, but he only led 21 laps, and I don't know. Do you take too much into the fact that Ford had 3 of the top 5 finishers, considering the past issues Ford has had at this track?
I think they looked into it. I mean, if you look at the 3 of them, 2 of them are Penske's, and we know that Penske is a strategy type of team. Keselowski got out of the car and said that he shouldn't have won it. He didn't have the fastest car. And then Kevin Harvick, you got the guy every track, no matter what, whether it's a bad track for him or not, or Ford or not, he's going to be there at the end and around the top 5. So you take away the 2 Penske's, you take away that green-white checker at the finish, and I bet you it's more Chevrolet, more Toyota.
All right, what about Blaney? Because that was a pretty solid third for Blaney. I mean, he seemed like for first time in a while, it didn't have many problems on the track, and he just slowly worked his way all the way up to a third place finish. And he's sitting there as now we can take a look at the bargains of this race, and he might be one of them at 16-1, right?
Yeah, if they don't pit again. So that's kind of what got him up to the top 3. Yeah, he was a top 10 car. I think he's learned from his early season issues. He was fast at the beginning of the season too, so don't take that away from him.
No. I'm not worried about that at all.
Yeah, it's really just since this restart, he's happened into problems. So if he can avoid the problems, if he can make the right call like they did on Sunday and stay out and not pit and pick up an extra 4 or 5 spots, I think if as long as he keeps doing that, he's going to get a victory. It's just a question of when. And we all know he had the speed prior to this quarantine to be able to get a victory, and probably should have won 2 already by now. So I think Blaney is another good choice. I don't think he's going to be a top 1 to win on Sunday, but maybe the week after, maybe when we get to Bristol.
Again, the big deal with him though is he's 16-1, and he had no prior result, nothing good at Charlotte before, and on the super speedway until Sunday. So that has to be a good sign. Correct me if I'm trying to remember. Didn't Blaney have some success in one of those all-star races? I don't know if it was like a showdown kind of deal with the who gets. I don't know, but I just kind of recall he might have had one of those races that were pretty good. And if that's the case, maybe there was some positive results that he had at that track before. But whatever the case may be, still at 16-1, is there give me a better potential bargain or a long shot that you like, Eric, if you do, other than Ryan Blaney?
Tyler Reddick for sure. He's starting 13th. He got a top 5, top 10 car for most of the night in the 600. He finished 4th in the first stage, had a little bit of an issue in the second stage, was 13th, worked his way back up to the 11th and third stage, and he qualified. He was I think 4th or 5th on the final restart, and when Bowman got loose underneath him, above him, he kind of got out of throttle too and fell back to 9th. But he's running good. He's got good speed, and he's got good odds. He's usually pretty good at Charlotte in general. So, yeah, I would say out of anybody worse, Tyler Reddick is one I would definitely take a look at. And maybe Christopher Bell, because we saw how good Toyotas ran. I mean, the finishes were indicative of how good they actually were. I think this is going to be one of those races that you're going to want to swing more money towards the favorites for good reason, like we talked about, just because of pitch strategy. Everybody knows what to expect now. Nobody's going to be. I would hope nobody be dumb enough if there's a caution with like 3, 4, 5 laps to go, they pit. I would expect them to stay out there. I would expect 2 tires, no tires, stops like that. It's a shorter race, so you don't have as much time to come from the back. So you're going to have some guys that are sprinkled up front, a Bowman, a Byron, maybe an Austin Dillon starting 7th. He won the 600 in 2017. He had a pretty good car. Again, he's in the top 5 on the final restart. 7th and 8th and 9th in the 3 stages. He just faded in the end as well. Just the same way, got kind of bunched up there. But that'd really be it. I would say spend more of your money on the favorites this week, and because it's going to be one of those races where the favorites are going to win. I don't expect much from the Penske guys. They like CJ said, they all kind of lucked into those finishes. It's most of the night. I even made a note of it. I think it was the third stage. All 8 of the Gibbs and Hendrick cars are running in the top 10, and they just remain that way the whole time. Or rather, 7 of the 8 take Hamlin out. So you could throw the 8th in there with Christopher Bell. That's where I got to the number 8. That's what you're going to see. You're going to see the Toyotas and the Chevrolet camp with Hendrick, and maybe get a Richard Childress Racing, one of those 2 guys up there too. And outside of that, stay clear of everybody else.
And CJ, who's your top long shot?
Before I say that, I'll go back to your question about Ryan Blaney on the All-Star race. And on this 2016 and 17, he was not in the All-Star race. He was in the showdown in the Open. He led 20 laps in 2017, advanced to the All-Star race to finish 18th, and then he finished 6th and 9th in the 18 and 19 All-Star races. As far as kind of another long shot to go along with him, Kurt Busch led a lot of laps, faded at the end. He said getting into traffic, wasn't able to make the right adjustments to be able to make that car work a little bit, dealing with the dirty air, and fell back. He's at the same price right now as Ryan Blaney. So I'd probably go with a Kurt Busch, but I do completely agree with Eric. Maybe another one might be a Matt Kenseth or a Tyler Reddick. But I do think you got to lean more towards the favorites. You got to be looking at Elliott, Bowman, Kyle Busch, Truex, etc. up there. I think they're just too good, too strong at this track. It's a shorter distance, so probably not as much opportunity for mistakes and making the wrong adjustments on your car. You're not going to have enough time to come back and win. So those guys we already know are fast, so they've got less work to do than the rest of the field.
All right. Well, we'll put out our picks and post them a little bit later on the website. We'll make our official picks after we all got screwed by Chase Elliott on Sunday. Good that we didn't have big money on Chase Elliott. Just imagine if you had like big money on Chase Elliott and they pull that on you. Oh, that would incense me beyond belief. And I don't know how they react afterwards, but I'd have to think, just if you're really that emotional, even though he didn't do it on purpose. If I'm Chase Elliott and I'm like, walking and past my other teammates and stuff, and William Byron decides he wants to, give his condolences and stuff, I'd be like, dude, get away from me. Don't talk to me right now.
Can we talk about Byron? What is it gonna take for him to realize that he's got a flat tire or something? Darlington, he had a loose wheel, and Chad Knaus kind of called him out and was like, dude, you had a loose wheel. That's why you wrecked. You could have pitted. And then he gets a flat tire. It's like, what were you doing on the racetrack, man? Like, you just cost your teammate a win. So yeah, that's 2 times in 3 races he hasn't recognized that he's had a tire problem, and he just kept pushing away. So yeah, I would be kind of mad if I was his teammates as well. Like, dude, you're bringing out unnecessary cautions here, that if you could just recognize that something's off. And granted, he's only 21 years old or 22 or whatever now, and he's in his 3rd year. He's had enough races now to know that you should feel what's right or wrong, and that single-handedly cost Chase Elliott and Hendrick a win, and I would not be happy about that.
No,
if I was Chase Elliott.
No. Not now. Just not now. We'll talk tomorrow. Get out of my face.
It isn't a slap in his face. He gets the pole tonight.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah,
beautiful.
Or tomorrow night. Yeah.
Well, what is he? 20-1? No, 12-1.
12.
That's a low number. Yep. It's a lot of low numbers. It's like there's almost too many low numbers. I don't know where they get all these drivers at. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 drivers at 12-1 or lower. Come on, you got to get better odds than that.
That's why I said I'd spend the money on the favorites, because the few dollars you would have spent on a long shot, you might as well pull it all together and go heavy on the favorites, because one of the favorites will win. I don't think we're going to see that fluke. Because of that, and those odds kind of reflect that.
And can we enough now of the McReynolds when the last caution comes out nonsense? Okay, I don't want to hear that stuff anymore. Okay, it's tradition. It's tradition, like boogity boogity boogity. We have to deal with it. We have to
pay our price until NBC
I'm
ends up
okay if
taking
it if
over
it
in
if
a
it
couple
works.
in a month or so.
But then, crap like this happens like on Sunday. It's like, well, how did your little handicapping report, how did that work into what happened to William Byron?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, a fluke. Oh, and tonight or tomorrow night. I keep saying that. Tomorrow night you've got an inverted field. Like there's nothing about any past stat that you can look at that's going to be. It's a shorter race with an inverted field. So I don't want to hear, oh well, according to my notes and 20 times in the last 22 Charlotte races, we've had a caution inside of 20 to go.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you also haven't had a 300-mile Cup race in those 22 races that you're looking
With
at.
an inverted starting lineup.
Yeah, like it's everything changes. The only thing you could go off of this race is really the last race in past history as driver stats on who's good, and know that it's a shorter race and the cream of the crop don't have much time to come back up.
And this is again confusing because you guys said this is half the race mileage from the Sunday.
Yes.
Okay,
310
so
miles.
that was a 600 race, and this is so shouldn't this be the Alsco uniforms 300 then?
It should. They just like that 500 number, which is why I kept saying, I think we talked about that on the show a year or two ago, that we need to have shorter races. The cars and drivers can make it. Like, if you want to leave the 500 or 400 number in the title, just make it kilometers. Just like tonight, 500 kilometers, but it's 300 miles. It's half the race. It'll be a better show. Just like I think Darlington on last Wednesday night, shorter race, more action than the 400-mile race that was before it. So yeah, this is literally half of the race that we saw on Sunday. That's a big noticeable difference.
Yeah, and they also, I mean, I know why they do it because of sponsorship, but it's like they're giving these sponsorships away. They do. They have half of these sponsorships are given away because they can't sell them, so they give them all these weird names to it to who knows, companies that pay them $1,000 or something. I don't know, but I don't even know who these sponsors are. There has to be. You would want to have some sort of continuity with the races so people can go, oh yeah, I remember the so-and-so race from last year. Instead, we're saying, oh, I remember that second Charlotte race from last year at the super speed. It's like, come on. I mean, it's like, that's part of branding your sport. Make it easy for people to recognize a specific track or a specific race when you're well, and again, I don't mind it if you're making big dollars from the sponsorship, but when you're not making big dollars from the sponsorship, which they are not, they should undo this. Just come up with the same name every year for the same races. All right.
I agree. I would like to see the Coca-Cola 500 or something. Just keep it uniform where we at least know whether it's the 600 or the 500.
Yeah, it's that other race. It's not the Coke 600. It's that other race that they raced at Charlotte. Oh, that's right. That was no, it's not the road course race because they had 3 races in 2020 because of the Wuhan virus. Oh, wait a second. What was that called? No, I don't know. That was the second race. That wasn't the Coke because that was the race on Wednesday. I mean, it's just confusing. So, all right. Well, when are we back on the air? We didn't really talk about that, did we?
No, we only got through the end of the schedule.
All right, we'll have to figure that out.
We're finally at the end of the schedule.
Okay, chances are, so it's the next 2 Sundays. Okay,
yes,
so we'll be on the air at some point then next week, maybe early and late. Who knows? We might split you guys up next week, but either way, we'll talk again before the Bristol race. Wait. The Bristol race is on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm free Friday if you want to do a Friday show.
Yeah, we might have to figure. Yeah, we'll definitely have to do a show on maybe Friday. Are you available on Friday, CJ?
I have no idea. I do not have my calendar in front of me.
All right. Well, Friday sounds like a good day then. So we'll be back on the air on Friday to preview the race on Bristol and wrap up this race that's coming up tomorrow night. And then we'll try to come up with a more long-term schedule on Friday's show. So, guys, appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you in a few days.
Awesome.
Sounds
Thanks.
good. Thanks.